And welcome into the Tuesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robbie Stanley, Paul Kuharsky in for Joe Rexrode today alongside Ian Safar. PK, how we doing? What's going on?
Good morning. I'm happy to be here. I don't hear myself in my own headphones.
I think the microphone may be a little low.
A little low?
There we go.
That was like an inch.
Wow, it made a difference.
Wow. Getting some high-tech equipment. Good morning, Nashville. Nice to be with you.
Nice to have you with us. Ian, how we doing? What's going on?
Good morning.
Ian, you should have had my microphone adjusted.
Sorry about that.
Proper height.
Yes.
Ian, go get a wrench. Get in here.
Treat the talent.
Doing great. Thanks. Little rain out there. I guess that's what rain looks like.
I guess so.
It's been a long time. Huh?
It's a little slow out there. Give yourself a few extra minutes. People, might as well be a blizzard, but doing great. Thanks. Hope everybody's doing good on this Tuesday. PK, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. Joe, living like a king, really, taking football season vacations. I don't really understand it, though I'm doing it for Thanksgiving. But I will say, I think if a sports writer does it once every 10, 15 years for Thanksgiving, when there's like a huge family gathering that he'd be the only person not at.
Yeah.
Like just new baby in the family. The great grandmother is meeting baby. Like I need to do it.
It's probably acceptable.
But this is not like I'm going to the beach and putting my feet up to drink mead and eat steak and shrimp.
This apparently is like an annual tradition for Joe. Just fall break. He just leaves every year.
Gives me a little extra work.
He does.
Take it.
He does. We got a lot to get into on the program today. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean will be with us at 7:30. Mike Herndon at 8:30. We will get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. We got a PK rant later in the show, so looking forward to that.
I'm going back to mashed carrots
I
used to do. We're looking for some music.
Oh, yes. Looking forward to that. We begin. How about those Jags last night? 31-28. They overcome a 14-point deficit. They win 31-28 against the Kansas City Chiefs, which means, PK, that the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars both sitting atop the AFC South at 4-1 right now.
Right now would both be in the playoffs very comfortably. I thought Houston was going to win the division by multiple games.
Yeah.
So that looks ridiculous. This is the beauty of the league, unpredictability. And they're doing it two different ways. I mean, it's not like Steichen has been in position forever, but the Colts have gone very patiently and waited this thing out. Chris Ballard, everybody would tell you, has been in position for too long. They'd tell you that in Indianapolis until these 5 games. And then in Jacksonville, a major change to 2 young guys and a franchise icon as team president. Put the Titans on this scale like they want the patience that Indianapolis has shown, but they're at the beginning of it, not with everybody, but with their coach, only a year plus in to what Jacksonville's doing, but they're not close to what either of those teams are doing on either of those routes, which is exceedingly frustrating for people here.
Johnny pointing out on YouTube that this is the first time all 4 AFC South teams have won in the same week since week 8 of the 2019 season. I mean, I guess when you think about it and how bad that division's been, I guess that's believable. That's a long time.
It's also, I think it's a little bit of a deceptive statistic because a reasonable, not a high percentage, but what percentage of those weeks are those teams playing each other?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. But yeah, I mean, pretty high. But still, I mean, you would think you'd run into one at some point in the last 6 years where that's been the case. But look, Jacksonville last night, to their credit, and you brought this up before the show, like Lawrence will still make some boneheaded mistakes out there from time to time, but every now and then he makes a throw where you're just like, good grief. I mean, that's exactly what you thought he was going to be.
Well, the throw to Brian Thomas on the last drive was ridiculous. And then he also, does both on one play where he falls down and re-falls down and gets up and runs in the end zone.
Yeah.
But I mean, being in Kansas City is an accomplishment no matter the state of Kansas City. Everybody's guarded, I think, about saying that Kansas City is, they've had some tough Septembers or early seasons before, and it's very risky to pronounce them dead.
Yep.
They find a way, and they always build as the season goes. But their weaponry is crap. So if they find a way, and Denver's better than they've been, I don't like them still, but they're better than they've been. Chargers are better than they've been, but their injuries seem to be real.
They're in trouble.
Killer with the offensive line stuff in particular. And their weaponry is questionable, but you got to like the way they're coached. So there are more challenges to Kansas City, it seems, than that there have been in a long time. That doesn't mean they're not going to win, but they certainly don't feel like Super Bowl favorites at this stage. But also, like, who's the best team in the AFC right now? The Bills just got beat. They got vrabeled. And they lack weapons.
Yep.
A lot of these good teams, the wide receiver situation isn't so great. And it shows you the value of having a Brian Thomas or an Egbuka, who just is crazy amazing for Tampa Bay.
I'll tell you this too, like the Colts schedule. I mean, their next few weeks here, this is where they go. They got home against the Cardinals, and we just saw them.
Cardinals, I mean, the wheels could come off after that game. Yeah. And the Cardinals after the Colts, are they at the Packers or at home?
I think it's at home against the Packers.
I mean, that's a heck of a duo. I saw a Cardinals buddy in the press box after that game who said, I don't want to cover a coaching search.
I mean, that's an all-timer that we saw on Sunday. We'll get to that here in just a few minutes. The Colts got the Cardinals, then they got the Chargers on the road, then the Titans at home, and then the Steelers on the road. Like, the Colts, they may do a lot of winning this year based on the way that they've looked. I mean, Jonathan Taylor looks unbelievable to start the year.
Can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
Can he stay healthy? Story of his career, right?
Yeah.
If he gives them a full season, and Danny Dimes stays on track. And I mean, there's no reason to believe that Danny Dimes is taking a dip if he's healthy.
No, I mean, it looks like it's the latest reclamation project story in the NFL is what it looks like. And we're running into one every year.
This is the new NFL now. Quarterbacks come in and they're not ready. And they're so not ready that you're spending your first round pick on a quarterback who's going to go play his best ball for somebody else. You're the minor league.
Yeah.
For the first round.
No, it's playing out.
It's remarkable.
More and more that way. And I know Darnold threw a pretty costly pick the other day against the Bucs, but before that in the game, he was really good. And we're seeing it every year now to this point. I mean, look, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Jacksonville, I mean, to their credit, they have won some games that have come down to the wire and could have gone either way to this point, and they've been able to pull it out. Now they've got Seattle coming up
by this new regime.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Cone's getting
and one thing you said, which I don't think we've seen a whole lot of, by the time that last drive came about last night, that crowd was going. And that crowd, as you know, largely has been dead from the moment they've walked in there, save for the first few years.
Thirsty as any market in the country, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they are Browns light.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was impressive last night. Now they got Seattle this weekend, and then they've got the Rams. So they got a couple of tough games.
Tough ones. If they could go 1-1 there, that would be good.
How you feeling about your Yankees tonight?
I don't feel good at all. I mean, they really took two just to the chin. But, I mean, if they've got anything in them, you got to be able to fight back at home, right?
You would think.
And get one. You get one. And then, if you have a lead in the fourth and the second one, things start to shift a little bit. And the other team starts to get a little nervous. Like, hey, we crushed them twice and here we are. And we haven't sealed this thing up. That's their only hope. But, I mean, my family's in Philly right now on fall break. And we're not in a good way. with the Yanks down 2, the Phillies down 2, and the Eagles having blown that game. And Simon's up there with in-laws who are, very much rabid Philly fans, and he sat through 3 losses with them.
They're going to kick him out of town.
Yeah.
Simon, go
He
home.
didn't charm things going up there pre-16th birthday.
I will say, as a relatively neutral baseball observer, I got serious Dodgers fatigue. I don't care who comes out of the National League, but I need it to not be the Dodgers. That would be great. Go Brewers. Come on, Brew Crew. Get out of the National League.
I feel the same way, kind of, but Ohtani is just so fun.
He's fun to watch, and look.
I just like
appreciate
to see his at bats. I'd be satisfied with that.
I'll see his at bats in April. That'd be good. That'd be awesome. Like I got some serious Dodgers fatigue coming.
And I mean, if we played a "Who do you want punched in the face" game in sports, which would be a fun segment,
it would.
Freddie Freeman would be my guy. And it's not just a Grand Slam. I didn't like him before the Grand Slam. This little hip swivel thing he does, like I pictured him before I got to see him, a lot. And I didn't watch Braves games, but I pictured him as kind of like a class act kind of guy. But then when he doubles and he does this little hula hoop thing, he turns into a clown for me.
Just bothers you.
With
Freddie Freeman.
Big teeth. I'm not a fan.
I don't know if I've ever looked at Freddie Freeman's teeth.
Yeah, check him out. Next time you see him, you won't be able to not to see his teeth. It's not just the teeth; it's like the whole jaw set.
Okay.
Whole lower third of the face.
Whole
punchable, just a little punchable.
That's what makes it so punchable. It's a big target.
I mean, Shane Beamer is definitely my guy. That's who my guy would be. Shane Beamer. Anybody in sports punch in the face, that'd be who it is.
Who you got?
Do you have one?
I don't know. That's a good question. Off the top of my head, it used to be Marshall Henderson, that basketball player from Ole Miss. I kind of wanted to punch him.
Funny story on that. So I was playing softball one.
That's got some staying power.
This is
probably been a while.
10, 11 years ago. I was playing softball here locally at a local park, and we were playing against this team. And I looked out in left field, and I was like, that guy doesn't have a glove on. Like, he's playing left field, and he doesn't have a glove. What's going on out there? And then I looked closer, and I was like, that's Marshall Henderson. It was Marshall Henderson. He had just come back from Bonnaroo. There's no telling what was going on with him.
Gloveless Marshall Henderson.
Yeah, he was out there in left field playing softball, no glove, out there in left field. It was amazing.
By the way, I want to call him Gloveless Marshall Henderson. I think that's a good nickname. I've come up with the nickname for the Titans win. Are we ready?
I'm ready.
The Glendale giveaway.
Oh, yes. I like that.
I like alliteration.
That's good. The Glendale giveaway. Well, we'll get into that with PK coming up next. Get his thoughts on the big Titans win. A nice change of pace to discuss with PK. We'll get into that coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on Cam Ward and what he's seen from them to this point. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Paul Kuharsky in today for Joe Rexrode. PK will be in tomorrow for his normal segment, and he'll be in on Thursday as well. We got a lot of PK this week, which is a good week here on the program.
So much
PK. And PK, something we've not done with you in a long time is discuss a Titans win. Now, it was probably the strangest win I think I've ever seen, but it's a win. Nonetheless, they get it done 22-21 against the Arizona Cardinals. You got a running back for Arizona dropping the football as he's marching into the end zone on a 76-yard would-be touchdown. You got an interception by Cam Ward that's fumbled and kicked around into the end zone that Tyler Lockett jumps on. And then to their credit after that, some big plays from Ward to Ridley, a big play from Ward to Helm. And they go down there and they get a much-needed win, really for everyone. Certainly for Brian Callahan, certainly for everybody on the roster. I think Titans fans needed that win. So it was ugly. You're not going to win a whole lot of games playing the way that they played in that game, but they got it done. You were there for it. What did you make of what I'm sure was one of the crazier days that you've seen in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, Arizona certainly had to get it going for the Titans and made some real bonehead plays to give it away. But the Titans had to go down the field and score. And with 193 yards in that fourth quarter, they outgained what they did in Denver, against the Rams, and in Houston in that fourth quarter, which really says something about their offensive output in those three games.
Yeah.
But something came alive in Cam Ward, who threw the ball very, very erratically. Yes, there were drops. Helm, Manor, poor. But he was throwing the ball all over the place. And everybody was working on some sort of piece about Cam Ward being a problem. I was writing the Titans have a Cam Ward problem. And then the fourth quarter, all of a sudden, he was feathering balls in. He was throwing them into tight windows. I mean, he threw terrific balls of all varieties to targets who were getting yards after the catch. Chig and then the stuff to Ridley and the great fade to Helm and putting them in position for exactly what they needed. It was a remarkable, remarkable quarter of football for both Arizona's failures and the Titans' achievements. Arizona, played to sit on the lead, and you think 21-6, that's not the way you should play. And then you look at what the Titans have done this year, and you say, absolutely up 21-6 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. There's nothing wrong with sitting on that lead. Now, when you have a guy walking into the end zone who drops the ball, there's something big time wrong with that. But, you can't help but feel happy for that locker room, for all it's been through, and for Callahan having found a way. Everybody wants to know, what does it mean in terms of carryover? And we just can't answer that question until after we see what they do in Las Vegas, and ideally for them beyond Las Vegas. But it makes Las Vegas a hell of a lot more interesting than it was going to be if that game finished the way it was for the first three quarters. And it's amazing the swing some of these fans go through where, I was piece of the 0-17. It was just hard to see a way for them to win. And now people start looking, well, you can win this one, you can win this one, you can win this one. And they're counting 5 or 6, and they're asking if Callahan still gets fired under those circumstances. But I mean, it's re-energized the time. It's amazing what one win could do when you've lost 10 in a row.
Well, everybody needed it. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's talking about something different for change is nice, selfishly. There's only so many ways I can talk about a loss over and over again, and boy, were they testing that. So, look, we all understand. I think there's a danger of getting too carried away with it. I mean, it was a special set of circumstances that allowed them to win that game. So there's no doubt about that. Now, I will say they're taking on a Vegas team this week, and we'll get into this later in the week, but they're not very good. The Raiders are awful. So this is of the winnable games that are left on the Titans schedule, this is certainly one of them. I think the big part you brought up there is Ward, and we're going to dig down on that for a minute because I'm with you. I thought for the first 3 quarters of the game, he was bad. Like he was not good, and he was erratic with the football. And yes, there were some drops, but as we talked about yesterday on the show, there were some drops. There were some balls you'd like to see your receiver come down with, but there are also a lot of inaccurate balls that they just had no chance on. And we were talking yesterday. One of the things that has to get better, one thing that you cannot win with in the NFL, is a 51.8% completion percentage. Like, that's got to get better.
Season completion percentage after 3 quarters of that game was under 50.
Yes.
It was 38% through 3 quarters in that game.
Right. And that's something that cannot happen. But to your point, the fourth quarter, it completely turned. I mean, 2 great throws to Ridley, one across the middle, one on the sideline. The great throw to Helm on the sideline there toward the goal line. I mean, those are 3 high-level throws that he made in that game. And he made some other throws that were just what the defense gave him, which is a big part of playing the quarterback position. So when you've got those 2 things kind of going up against each other, hopefully that's a springboard for him, because I was with you. I was pretty worried about Ward after he's 5 of 16 at halftime. Like, I was pretty worried about him.
I think they're just telling him that, Callahan made it clear. He told him, just use your eyes, simple reminder. Use your eyes, let your feet go with your eyes. Kind of the underlying part of that was like, don't overdo it. Don't overcomplicate it. Now, the third quarter, they did nothing really, and he didn't have many throws. But the fourth quarter, he seemed to follow that directive. So what do they do now? Like Tyler Lockett said, a game like that, you double down on your buy-in after things go. And my hope would be, and I'm sure the coach's hope would be, not that Cam Ward hasn't bought in to everything, but there's a lot of stuff he could fall back into habit-wise. And there's a lot of stuff that you practice and you do well in practice, but it's different when the pass rush is coming and the game is unfolding and everything, that he's clearly falls back into. And it's not just a Cam Ward thing. It's a young quarterback thing, right?
Yeah.
But if they can sell him this week on, look what happened when you just kept it simple and let's just go with it, like a golf swing where you got one thought.
Yeah.
Let your one thought be, see it, use your eyes, let your feet follow. Even that's too much. But that was the halftime message that kind of got through in the fourth quarter. And if they can somehow this week just make it all about, remember that, see it and how it worked. And let's spend Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on see it. And let's take it to Las Vegas and do it at Allegiant Stadium on Sunday afternoon. If that could be the kernel that they grow on them, and if they can build out of that, I think that would be hopeful stuff. If he gets out there in the first quarter and Max Crosby blows up 3 plays early, and all of a sudden what he's seeing is the Vegas rushers and ghosts of the Vegas rushers, that see it could go away, Yeah,
there's no doubt. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take your thoughts, your questions for PK on the Cam Ward front. We'll have more to get to on the Ward front coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
guys need to be able to catch balls that are in catchable range versus sometimes he seems to throw 100 miles an hour when he doesn't necessarily have to.
That's part of it. There's a part of throwing catchable footballs. And he's got an unbelievably twitchy release and really natural body torque when he throws. And there's learning how to layer those throws and learning how to take a little bit off. And again, that's all part of his growth process over the course of these games. And I thought in this game it was really, really good, consistently throwing the ball, catchable in the spots that needed to be put in for the most part. So again, he's learning every time he goes out there, and he's improving every time he takes the field, and been pretty pleased with the rate of improvement.
That's Brian Callahan on Cam Ward, taking your thoughts. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Now, PK, we brought up the completion percentage, and Titans fans will immediately say, well, if the receivers could catch the ball, the completion percentage will go up dramatically. Now, there's no doubt Titans got to do a better job of catching the football. How much of that is on the receivers? How much of that do you think it has been on Ward to this point of throwing the fastball when he doesn't have to, not throwing the most catchable ball, leading his receivers, things of the like?
Well, first off, his completion percentage is what, 51.8?
That is correct.
That's not all drops. I mean, it certainly would come up with the catches of the drops, but it's not all drops. He's not thrown the ball accurately enough. So let's not put it all on the receivers. Now, there have been too many drops. And of those drops, some of the balls have lacked touch. So a certain percentage of them are uncatchable. But another percentage of them, professional receivers need to catch balls that are thrown hard. Whether or not he needs to put more touch on some of them, set that aside.
I agree.
They need to be caught, especially by Ridley, who's a $90 million, $80 million player. That's not an excuse. I mean, they go out, they crank up the jugs machine, and they have balls fired at them every day. So I think it's reasonable to ask your quarterback to throw with appropriate touch, given the windows and the timing and all of that. But I think it's also fully appropriate to tell a receiver, if the ball's hitting you in the hands, receivers say this all the time. If it hits me in the hands, I'm supposed to catch it. So let's see it. Now, some of these balls have a double whammy where they're thrown awfully hard and they're behind a guy.
Yeah.
They're out of frame.
Which is
now that's putting a lot on a receiver.
Yeah.
And the one 2 weeks ago at Isle Manor when Ward was on the move, coming out of the pocket. He left his feet. He threw it super sidearm. He threw it behind Alec, and it goes off his hands and it's intercepted.
Right.
I mean, you're putting your receiver in a terrible position there. By the letter of the law, some people don't make any exceptions. By the letter of the law, some people would say, well, hit him in the hands, he should catch it. Well, if he's expecting it on his front hip and it's on his back hip and he's moving the other direction, yeah, he could get his hands on it, but it's a ridiculous catch to ask him to make. And what it's going to produce is trouble. And it produced the worst case of trouble there in terms of an interception that set things up totally against them. So there's a lot of nuance here. It's not just straight. Receivers need to catch more. Ward needs to be more accurate. And Ward needs to throw with more touch. His coach said so there. So all of that needs to come together. And even if all of that's fixed, there's still too many balls just hitting the ground.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. I mean, Josh on the YouTube chat asking how they can turn fourth quarter Cam into full game Cam. And I think you went through some of that in the last segment there. But I do wonder, in terms of the next game, I mean, you just saw it in the fourth quarter. And yes, the fourth quarter also involved some deeper passes down the field to Ridley, and they had to move the ball, and they were able to do it.
I had a very interesting thing in my podcast after the game. Somebody said, this is what Cam is. And I thought they were in the excitement of the moment saying the fourth quarter is what Cam is. And I said, it's awfully hard to say this is what Cam is, given 4 games and 3 quarters of really not that much good Cam.
Right.
Then I was on with Braden Gall yesterday. I do my Monday podcast, a football show with him. And he said he read that question as, this is what Cam is. You can get 3 quarters of garbage and this peak moment. I think that was probably what the reader and viewer intended, in that you can have a game where there's a lot of stuff that doesn't work out, and he has some dramatics.
Yeah, turns it on. There are a lot of people talking about the idea of, and Ward talked about this after the game, of getting him in the 4-minute, the 2-minute offense and just going with some pace to it. Brian Callahan said yesterday that they've done some no huddle and they've done some of that, and obviously he's comfortable with it. What do you make of the idea of trying to get in those situations more? I know your thing last week was getting him on the move,
and
even
he
if that
was on
is
the move in this
taking
game.
off, even if that is taking away half the field and doing half the field reads sometimes. But what do you make of the idea of maybe operating like it's a 4-minute offense more often than they have?
I like the idea, but his answer didn't really hint at it, and kind of suggested that a lot of it was personnel related. And getting big. He said, we have done quite a bit of no huddle, and I think that package continues to grow. It's something that Cam feels very comfortable in and has shown to execute well. So those are things that by game plan, of course, those are things that he does as shown to play well in, and those are things we're going to keep expanding as we keep going forward. Show me.
Yeah, for sure. And the other part of this too, accuracy's got to get better. But I think you saw that throw he made to Ridley on the sideline, I don't think you could run up and hand him the ball any better than that.
The one that put him in
the field goal position.
That's
it's
a play
a
of the game.
Great throw. It's a great throw. So I said this yesterday. It's great to be able to make those throws. Like that's why you draft a guy number 1 overall. His first touchdown pass against the Rams. It's crazy that he's able to make that play. And now the question with him, I think, is going to turn into, can you make the simple, mundane, routine passes that you have to make down by down in the NFL? Because we've just not seen enough of that to this point. And that's the name of the game.
And then there's a little bit from his bosses, right?
Yes.
Julius Chestnut's in the backfield, and I understand that that's a wrinkle. And was it a great throw? No. But did Pollard or Spears make that catch? Yes. So are you tricking them with Chestnut? Probably. Are they scared of Chestnut? No. And can Chestnut catch? No. So do you win out with that? No, you lost with that.
Yeah.
Now, if the throw's good, better. Look, we've been waiting on Spears for a month. You finally get him, and then you decide, hey, we're going to outfox them by putting our worst running back in the backfield to be a pass catcher.
Right.
It's easy to second guess that, but look where it winds up. I don't want Julius Chestnut anywhere near a pass receiving option ever. He's not. So I don't know. You fool them by putting your worst pass catching running back in a pass catching situation. What are you balancing there odds wise in terms of him making the play? To me, I scratched that before you get to the game.
How big a deal is that game for Ridley? 5 catches, 131 yards, did not have, some crazy drop in there, and made some big plays when it mattered the most.
Yeah, I think it's substantial. I'd like to look at his game by game last year when he took off, because he reached the same point. Now, the thing he's got to get past is this trend where he starts so slow and it takes him a while to get going. But that was a big time. I'm not going to call him a number 1 receiver. He's not a number 1 receiver, but he played like a number 1 receiver in that game. He put up number 1 receiver numbers, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you need from him, at least on occasion. I don't think you're getting it week to week, but you'll get it enough for him to be a 1,000-yard receiver, which is at the bare minimum what you need from him. And, those were some big time catches of some big time throws. And that they've got to have that from him. I'm looking last year.
It was week 7.
It was week 7 before he broke out. He was 10 for 15 targets for 143.
And then after that, he was pretty consistent.
Yeah, he's ahead of schedule there. He didn't look to lack any confidence or anything like that. And so good for him. Look, Calvin is I don't want to call him a complicated guy. He's a good dude, but I think things just kind of get in his head and he has trouble getting them out. And that looked like it got him out. Now he's got to sustain it. I think he'd be the first one to say it. I missed him post game because initially he didn't want to talk. And so I circled to somebody else, and then the Titans talked to him and did a good job getting him to talk, but I missed it when he talked. But I think he was kind of like embarrassed to be talking after a good game after all that he had gone through. So they need to keep him going. And, I'd love to hear from all the people that said, well, it's okay that Calvin's bad because Alec Iomanair is going to be our number one receiver. That was a terrible game by him.
Yeah, not very good. And again, look, he's a rookie 4th-round pick, but I think we've gotten a little overboard on some of the discourse around him of like, well, don't worry, he's going to end up being your number one wide receiver out there. It's like, I don't think that he's a good story. He can end up being a good player for the Titans. I do not see in his future number one wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans.
They backfilled this in some ways. Now, you hate that Femi Oladejo is going to be a second rusher at best.
And we're going to get into that
We haven't
later.
seen anything. And that Iomanair, that's fine if a 4th-round pick turns out to be your second receiver. That can be pretty good. But just waiting on the guaranteed number ones ahead of those two guys, which is a high expectation.
No doubt. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. Some more thoughts on the Titans front to get to with PK. The Predators have named their 23-man roster. I'll give some quick thoughts on that as well. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. The Blue Raiders taking on Missouri State tomorrow at 6:30. Catch all the action on Totally Hits 93.3 with coverage also available on the Totally Hits Nashville app and at TotallyHitsNashville.com. Robbie Stanley, Paul Kuharsky, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning, taking your thoughts on the Titans at 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. I got some thoughts on the Predators' 23-man roster, which we will get to here in just a few minutes. I do have people asking about the kicker, though, PK, so I want to get your thoughts on that. Joey Sly hits the game winner. Now, if that ball was moved back another 5 yards, he probably misses the game winner as well. But a missed kick in the game. He's been missing a lot of field goals lately. Missed extra point in the game. So what do you make of that? Obviously, his range is a big weapon, can be a big weapon for them. But if you're missing kicks left and right like he has been the last few weeks, doesn't do you a whole lot of good out there. So what do you make of where Joey Sly currently stands?
Well, Fossil said what the problem was when he missed the 2 last week. He sat with his plant foot open, which leaves his hips in position to push the ball right. He did the same thing on the point after. I talked to him last week. I thought I was just going to get like a quick, I've gotten things straightened out, but he actually talked me through it pretty extensively for maybe 4 minutes. And about his process of coming back from it and all of that. They had kickers in last week. They have people in every week, right, on Tuesdays. Oftentimes, the position that they have, and they have a couple positions. Oftentimes, the position they have in doesn't correlate with anything that's going on. I don't think it's any accident that they had 4 kickers in last week. One of them was Greg Joseph. Greg Joseph was on the Titans for 2 weeks in 2019.
Yeah.
He did not attempt a field goal. You know why? They were busy in those 2 weeks scoring 9 touchdowns.
Yeah.
He kicked 9 extra points, 63 points worth of touchdowns. That's
feels like a lifetime ago.
Think about that. Yeah. I think they've got his back. I think Fossil's got his back, but I think, you're living in dangerous territory. And outside of that fourth quarter, he's their number 1 offensive weapon. And if he's your number 1 offensive weapon, you need to be able to count on him. And he's missed 4 field goals and an extra point in the last 3 games.
Yep.
One of them blocked, but shaky ground.
Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Roy to the program. Roy, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, thanks, guys. All I can say is us winning that game seems normally that was a game that over the last couple of years, if we would be the team, we would be Arizona, that would be a way that we would normally lose the game. But with that being said, there's a couple players on my Arizona squad, Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride, clearly are going to be great players, hopefully, for years to come. But with Trey McBride being their number 1 tight end and looking at what the Titans have with Chig and Gunner, when can you expect, or what situation do you expect to see Gunner him getting more balls and opportunities? And when do you see him possibly having a breakout game? I know it's hard to kind of, point that out right now, but I see this guy doing some great things later. All right.
Thank you, Roy. Appreciate it. Well, I said yesterday, Helm, and I saw Herndon tweet about this, so maybe we'll ask him about it later in the show. We've got him coming on at 8:30. He said, he thinks Helm may have the best hands on the team. Like, he's made, between the preseason catch that he made where basically his eyes were shielded in front of him and he goes up and he makes the grab. It was a great throw by Ward on the sideline, but it's also a great catch by Helm to corral that ball, get his feet in bounds right there by the goal line. Like, I don't know that Gunnar Helm, has superstar tight end potential, but I would like to see them throw the ball his way more often. I think he's shown that he can make some plays for you.
He played more than I thought. I'm looking now, 44 snaps, which is the same as Ridley, which is 66% of the offensive snaps. Now, they're compelled for 12 snaps to go to Crenshaw, Dixon, and Levin for tackle eligible stuff. Those are snaps, and Helm had a good attitude about it. Said, game plan, we want to go bigger there. And that's what Callahan said. You You can't get guys that size at tight end. And in those situations, we need them. But the thing that's holding Gunnar Helm back to a degree is his blocking, right? So he could play a little bit more if he could block a little bit better. Now, he's never going to be a supreme blocker. But why they can't get the ball to him more when he's on the field, I don't know. I think they're having trouble a little bit with distribution percentages. And Mike will have a good handle on that, and we'll talk more about it with him.
Yeah, like I think, again, the hands, you could see the blocking part of it. You know, he's a rookie, 4th-round pick, few games in. So we'll see how much that improves as they move forward.
But you look at targets there.
I agree.
Mean, Ridley had 10, Chig had 5, and Helm had 5.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's hard to object. Pollard had 3. Iman had 4. DK had 5. Lockett had 4. Chestnut had the one that I've bemoaned. I don't look at that and say anything's really askew. I'd like a couple more for Helm. Who do they come from? You know?
Yeah.
Lockett, presumably, but you got to do something out of the slot there, receiving wise.
Well, and to Roy's first point, you know, Callahan, I think, made that point at the beginning of the press conference yesterday of, you know, we know that the way they won that game in Arizona is not sustainable, but, you know, Arizona was the team making the catastrophic mistakes, and the Titans have been the team that have made the catastrophic mistakes. So to not be that team is a good thing. Now, I would argue that, you know, Arizona made some just unbelievably catastrophic mistakes, and I don't know how much we're going to see that again. But to be able to be in that position, take advantage of it, good to see.
I mean, those mistakes are worse. Certainly the dropping the ball coming out of the end. I mean, both of them. The two, and there's and let's not forget the ball bouncing off of Murray's face mask. They're all, the two big ones are worse than anything Will Levis did last
year. Totally agree. Totally agree.
Worse than anything Will Levis did last year when we said you can't make worse mistakes than these. You're handing the game away.
Right.
I mean, Arizona literally handed the game.
They did.
Now the Titans had to go take it, and I'm not discrediting anything they did. They did what they needed to do. God bless them. They got in the win column. But, my God, Arizona helped. Now, what do the Titans go do after they've had this feeling? That's the big question. And we got to wait till Sunday to find out. But at least they don't have, you know, their toughest opponent on their schedule next.
Yeah.
Vegas is in disarray. Now, immediately, where do you go? I go to Pete Carroll versus Brian Callahan.
Yep, for sure. That's a big, big matchup on that front. And again, like, as bad as the Raiders are, not that this is the be-all, end-all, because we just saw the Titans win a game where they were 9-point underdogs, but, you know, Vegas is a 5.5-point favorite at home. So we'll see.
It was 6.5.
Yeah. Money's coming in on the Titans, baby.
Get excited. Everybody's loving the Titans.
Get excited
Ian,
about the Titans.
I know, has five hundo down.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
My picks have been, I've started off hot, but
come back to earth a little bit.
I'm 7-5 on the record against the spread. I don't include the Titans in that.
There we go.
But I will say, last week I looked at it. I didn't like anything, and I said, I'm not picking against.
I don't like anything. Nothing's good out there.
That's how much restraint.
That was probably a smart move. I went 0-3 in the NFL, so
Kuharsky,
there you go.
Kuharsky all over it. Quick thoughts on the Predators' 23-man roster. They named it yesterday. Evangelista back in the fold after signing his contract. He is awaiting immigration to go through, so we'll see if that's ready by the time Thursday's game rolls around. The big story, Brady Martin has made the team out of camp. Their number 1 pick from this last year's draft. He is 18 years old.
Go, youngsters, go.
I think I saw the stat Alex Doherty threw out there yesterday that he will be the second youngest Predator to make their debut. I think Scott Hartnell back in the day was younger by the days count, both 18. But Brady Martin will be the second youngest to make his debut. So
starting off center 1.
We'll see how it goes. He apparently alternating, playing center and on the wing with Ryan O'Reilly on the top line.
That is strange, huh? You don't put Riley on the wing?
Yeah,
O'Reilly on the wing?
I've never seen that. So we'll see how that goes and how they use that situationally. But look, there are 9 games. They can play Martin 9 games before they have to figure out if he's just going to be with them on the big club or if they're going to send it back to junior hockey. So good for him. Obviously had a good camp coming out. In some ways, it's kind of similar to Cam Ward and the Titans, right, in terms of You got a guy that's a really young kid on a team that most everybody doesn't expect to be very good, and we'll see what that looks like. But the Predators start on Thursday. We'll have a lot more coming for the next 2 days on that front.
John Glennon pointed out that simultaneous odds, Brian Callahan, the favorite to be fired in the NFL, and Andrew Burnett, favorite to be fired in the NHL.
Get excited.
Nashville, baby.
Get excited around here. We'll have more coming on the Titans front coming up next. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean will be with us at 7:30. Mike Herndon at 8:30. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Paul Kuharsky, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We'll have Gentry Estes from the Tennessean coming up at 7:30. We'll get into the Titans, the Vols, Vanderbilt with Gentry, so looking forward to that. Mike Herndon coming up at 8:30. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. PK, the offensive line. We have a lot of questions about that. Number one, on the J.C. Latham front, we'll see how that goes this week. But the Raiders, obviously, with Max Crosby out there, what will that look like? How much rust do we expect? So we'll get into that here in just a minute. But overall, I would say, personally, looking at the offensive line, still some rough reps from Dan Moore out there from time to time. But on the whole, against a Houston pass rush that I thought was just going to eat them alive, I thought they held up pretty well against the pass rush, even if it resulted in 0 points for the offense. And then Sunday against Arizona, they allowed 2 sacks, both to Josh Sweat, and I think 4 quarterback hits was the number at the end of the game. So that's pretty staunch improvement from what the first few games look like of the regular season for Cam Ward and for the offensive line. What do you make of the way the line is currently playing, and what do you make of Latham potentially back out there this week?
And one of those Josh Sweat sacks was this 4th and 10 where people are trying to assess, was it Moore who didn't really move? It wasn't his man that ultimately got the sack, but he wreaked havoc. Or was it Spears? And in fact, it appears to be Cushenberry, because Cushenberry snapped the ball on a play where 3 other guys didn't move. So I don't think they were intending to snap the ball. I don't know how that gets screwed up. That's a big gaffe. So, you know, if you were to take that away, 1 sack, obviously it happened, but they didn't intend to go there. Offensive line's been better the last 2 weeks, and I think the way they've styled the game or shaped the game has been better. You have to Udo has been better at right tackle. Now you have to hope that Latham, who I think will reemerge this week, comes in and picks up where Udo is and does better with it. You can't have him come in and be a slow starter or look rusty or any of those things. You know, what a disaster it'll be if they've kind of settled down a little bit with the second stringer finally, and then the starter comes back and you're set back a little bit
with Max Crosby on the other side,
which would be a very Titan-esque thing to do. This should be a boon to them to get their starting right tackle back and then to go forward with the growth the 4 have had and him back. And you know, at least these baby steps forward where you see some cohesion and some collective improvement. This is what everybody's been waiting for. It's taken a long time. Can they sustain it and keep it going? I mean, there was no Max Crosby on the field last week. But Hunter and Anderson, they did a pretty good job against overall. Hunter had 2 sacks, if I'm not mistaken. They've got to continue to grow and play better. And it seems like right now they're, it's a small sample size compared to the big sample size of badness. But right now they're trending better.
What's your takeaway from Dan Moore individually through 5 games?
I think they knew they were signing a relatively average player to fill a problem spot and to reduce their serious list of draft needs. And that's exactly what they've gotten pretty much, right?
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, it's not Andre Dillard or Dennis Daly by any stretch of the imagination. So that's good.
But it's not Taylor Lewan.
It's not Taylor Lewan. Like, there's still a couple reps a game where it's like, oh boy, that was rough out there. And I get it. And it's left tackle. If you're going up against good edge rushers, you're not going to look perfect all the time. But it's about 1 or 2 times a game where he just gets beat so cleanly that it's like, oh my, it's the quarterback has no shot on that play.
Yeah. You just got to hope that this quarterback can, and so far he has, deal with those things. We haven't seen any situations, I know people will knock on wood at this, where the hits that Cam Ward has taken or the sacks that he's taken, some of which are self-inflicted from holding it too long, have appeared to be putting himself into real dangerous situations, or his guys leaving him in real dangerous situations. And so I don't know if 5 games is enough for us to characterize that he, and it only takes one, obviously, but the kind of hits and sacks that he's taken so far, it doesn't look like he offers himself up to get banged squarely where we've been like, oh crap. And so hopefully that is a trend that tells you about how he does absorb hits and tend to take hits. And that's been a positive as well.
So we've talked a lot about rookies today, from Gunnar Helm to Cam Ward and Alec Iomanner, all these guys. On the defensive side of the ball, it's 5 games, but I've not seen really anything from Femi Oladejo. And, he's playing out there because of where they're at edge rusher. I mean, he's getting significant snaps. They were pointing out on the TV broadcast the other day. He was spying Kyler Murray on one play, just totally ran the opposite way. And then Murray got around the edge and picked up the first down on the play. But other than that, you're just not seeing a lot out there from him. It's early in his career. We know he's a second-round pick. We've talked a lot about him. What's your concern level at this point if you're Mike Borgonzi, if you're Chad Brinker, Brian Callahan looking at this, and you're seeing just a total lack of impact from your second-round pick out there right now?
I think you're hoping that there's some light bulb moment coming for Femi Oladejo, and that light bulb moment comes in his rookie year. He played 43 snaps, 63%, and that sounds really high considering how much you saw him. Draymond Jones, 68%. Ward, 53%. So they're certainly mixing it up. Key the least at 51%. I mean, Key is starting to fly. He had half a sack. I think he had half a sack last week. When he flashes, he tends to be a little bit streaky. That whole group. I feel
like Ward's flashing a little bit more.
Jahad Ward. Yeah, he is. And Draymond Jones recovered a fumble. It's the first thing he did all season. First reason to say his name, right? First time you've noticed him, except when you're looking to see, where guys are lining up. Oh, look, he kicked inside one.
The fumble, by the way, that went off the quarterback's face mask that nobody forced.
Which in the press box, they're making us look like idiots. You don't always see exactly what happens, and you trust what they announce. And they say, well, I think the referees said it. But if the referees didn't say it, they said it in the press box. They said, backwards pass, recovered backwards pass. And so I tweet recovered backwards pass. And then I get attacked from everywhere. And I say, I'm sorry, they've changed it to a recovered fumble, but they announced recovered backward pass. I mean,
the press box got to do a little better than that.
The other thing
I got square in the face.
The other thing I got destroyed for is I thought that the fumbler of the interception, it looked to me like he got tagged down. Now, some people are sending me screenshots. I mean, insisting I don't know the rule. Some people are sending me screenshots of him like hitting the ground with nobody near him, which is not tell me anything because the ball's not out. I can't see the ball. Now, I took a screenshot last night of a replay where you cannot see the ball anywhere, and there's a Titans defender right at his foot. So, God forbid somebody not see something exactly precisely. I'll just stop tweeting that.
You do know the rules, though. That's good. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Some more of your Titans thoughts to get to, plus A pretty wild story in the NFL over the weekend that we have not discussed yet. We will get into that. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean coming up at 7:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Preds fans, Smashville Live returning tonight at Brewhouse South in Cool Springs to 6 o'clock. See your Preds star players up close and personal Also, your chance for autographs and pictures as well. Tonight's Preds player guests will be Nick Hague and Nick Perbix, the 2 new additions on the blue line for the Predators. So make sure you're tuning in for that. PK, what was the stat you just came up with?
34 games for the Titans between 16-point quarters.
Which is, by the way, that's how many they scored in the fourth quarter on Sunday, 16 against Arizona.
So,
34 games.
Yeah, the last time they've scored at least 16 points in a quarter, October 1st, 2023, they scored 21 points. And then the 3 times before that, all in 2022. Well, September of 2022, and then 2 January games in 2022.
So this is the first time in the Brian Callahan era that they've scored 16 and a quarter.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible. Big story in the NFL over the weekend. Mark Sanchez involved in an incident in Indianapolis that has now resulted in a felony charge for him in an altercation that led to his being stabbed early Saturday morning. He was supposed to be doing the call for the Colts and the Raiders on Fox Sports. That did not happen. I think Brady Quinn ended up stepping in and doing the job for him. But Sanchez involved in an incident with a 69-year-old man who sustained significant injuries himself as a result of the conversation. This is from Ryan Mears, who is the prosecutor in Marion County, Indiana. It says, quote, "You have the allegations of a 38-year-old man becoming involved in an altercation with a 69-year-old man who sustained significant, very severe injuries as a result of that altercation. We are literally talking about people fighting over a parking space and or a dispute about where people are parking. And it resulted in just incredibly significant injury." So apparently Sanchez attacked this guy over the parking spot and where he was parking. The guy alleges that he smelled alcohol on Sanchez, and the guy ultimately ended up stabbing Sanchez a couple of times. Sanchez is in the hospital recovering, as is the 69-year-old man, but pretty wild over the weekend. Mark Sanchez going to Indianapolis to call a game, gets himself allegedly drunk, and then starts attacking guy. And the guy at one point pepper sprayed him, allegedly, and that didn't work, and then stabbed him a couple of times.
This is a bad scene. I mean, I know we don't know everything yet, but as soon as the felony word comes out, it should get your attention.
Yeah.
I mean, when there's misdemeanor stuff, I'm not dismissing it, but felony stuff takes it to a whole nother level in terms of the legal potential and the permutations of what can happen to a guy. And it sounds like he did some stuff he definitely shouldn't have done here.
Yeah, arrested for battery with injury, unlawful entry of a motor vehicle, and public intoxication for his role. And again, those have been a felony charge has been added to all of that. Pretty wild stuff. And again, you're talking about a guy that, I can't remember Mark Sanchez really having any sort of incidents like this in his career, but one night out on the town in Indianapolis apparently was all it took.
It's a risky town. Pat McAfee did some damage in the canal there. And now this.
Gotta watch out for Indianapolis out there. When you read through this story, it's just incredibly stupid. Apparently the guy was parked in a space, and I guess he was switching out something at the hotel, like some oil or something in the hotel. And apparently Mark Sanchez just thought that was crazy and ended up
wanted the spot
and wanted the spot and just said he couldn't park
there. He didn't even know the guy.
We've all wanted
super
spots.
random worker, and you're just going to pick a fight with him?
But that's the thing. I didn't even think Sanchez was in a car. I think he just looked at it. It was like, you can't park there. I was like, what are you doing?
And then lied that he had been in contact with the hotel management?
Yeah, exactly.
Just strange.
Very strange.
He must have been hammered.
Is this Good Morning America behind you? They've got a national correspondent there.
Yeah. That's wild.
That's what a felony.
That's
if
what
it was a misdemeanor. They would not have a correspondent.
Would not be there.
They might pick up an Indianapolis reporter, and they probably wouldn't do a story. Oh, it's the Today Show.
Okay.
Excuse me. I get all the morning shows
I do
mixed
too.
up. That's what you get for not being a morning guy.
I do too.
What's your excuse? You're a morning guy.
I
You
mean,
should know all these
we
shows.
watched Charmed.
Al Roker's on.
We watched Charmed, and we watch like Good Morning Football.
Yep,
Those are the two things we
ESPN,
watch.
Get Up, Good Morning Football,
Yeah.
Little
sometime
local
in
news. You
Charmed.
watch a little local news. I know your game.
We watch a little local news in there too. People say money will buy a good lawyer. Misdemeanor status is on the horizon. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, felony word has been brought up, and I mean, look, you can't just go attack a guy. I don't care who you are. Like Mark Sanchez.
Also,
I don't
it's
think
an old
rises.
man.
Yeah, you can't just
People
go
ended up
attack
in the
a guy.
beating
hospital,
up
all
grandpa.
types of stuff. Yeah.
Just, here, I thought the most famous thing he'd ever be famous for was the butt fumble.
As always, we'll wait. Yeah, he's off the hook for the butt
He's
fumble.
all
man.
the butt fumble thing of the past.
No
baby.
one upper over here.
Now the other television is talking about the Eagles being on the verge of a collapse after losing one game in their last 20 or whatever it is. Your boy AJ Brown's causing some problems up there.
Well, I don't know if it's him causing the problems. I think it's people that refuse to throw him the ball. I mean, I would be
Well,
upset.
people are arguing that they tried to throw the ball too much this week to Brown and
because
Devontae
they ran
Smith,
one time in the fourth quarter.
and thus it cost them the game.
Do you see the Hail Mary at the end of the game where the ball is going up and like Devontae Smith looks like he's got it, and AJ Brown just comes over the top of him and just rakes him right to the ground. And it's like, well, nice defense, AJ. Way to go out there.
There's a good tweet out here from Will Lomas. Guys, you don't know the half of it. Get ready for this. Calvin Ridley has more yards than AJ Brown. Tony Pollard has more yards than Derrick Henry.
Think some of that.
And the Titans and the Ravens have the same record at 1-4.
That-
And everybody was on the Ravens bandwagon.
I thought the Ravens should have just given the ball to Henry like 30 times. Dude, they're playing Houston.
I know, but he couldn't run.
Always crushes Houston.
He couldn't do it.
I mean, they got destroyed by Houston.
Destroyed.
I looked up one time. I think he had 5 carries for 6 yards.
Houston's
In the
back,
game.
baby. I didn't. I mean, I had them winning the division by multiple games. I didn't have them winning playoff games, but
Wow.
they're back.
I mean, Orlovsky just tweeted. I think he tweeted last night. He's like, the AFC South's a juggernaut, baby. And it's
Orlovsky
like, well,
tweeted that Cam Ward's
yeah,
that his film is unbelievable.
yeah, I saw that.
He picked one quarter of football to watch. He watched the fourth quarter of the Cardinals game, and he made his judgment on that.
Like, you guys would not believe this film from Cam Ward out there.
Seriously, I mean, if you've watched Cam Ward's season, I am no film student. I am no quarterback mechanics guy, but I don't understand how you could have watched any representation of his total work this year and said, this guy is absolutely going to be amazing.
Well,
and then he said he's going to be a top 8 quarterback.
Yeah.
And people just started listing. They listed like 15 quarterbacks and they said, who are you taking out?
Yeah. This was the tweet from Orlovsky. Cam Ward's tape is incredible. He's better than we thought. If the Titans do right with and around him, he'll be a top 8 player at quarterback easily. That was what
I'm going to text Orlovsky about this. I know him.
Easily.
And Kevin Clark
Easily.
Retweeted it and said amen or whatever. Now, Kevin Clark's a Miami guy.
Yeah.
So he is all in. And he's a Miami guy, by the way, and I like Kevin Clark a lot. He's a Miami guy who in none of his tweets hyping Cam Ward has said, oh, by the way, I'm a Miami guy.
Yeah.
Who rooted like crazy for this guy last season.
The first response to Orlovsky's tweet is from @trailer73 that says, Titans fan here. I have to ask, are you high? Hey, Dan, what have you been doing out there before you watching the Cam Ward film? 615-737-1025, our phone number. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean will join us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans, his thoughts on Vanderbilt's loss at Alabama, and a whole lot more. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Paul Kuharsky, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. And we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Gentry Estes from the Tennessean. Gentry, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you guys?
We're awesome. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. Gentry,
Few people know that Gentry and I share EPL.
really?
Affiliation. Fewer people care, but he and I both are Chelsea fans.
I mean,
so
Gentry,
often we discuss Chelsea, and Chelsea's coming off a huge win over Liverpool.
Gentry's a cultured man.
That's
He's got
right.
the EPL.
Very cultured.
Very, all into the Ryder Cup, just like me. Did not go well for the United States. A lot of things that Gentry cares about.
I mean,
out
we
there.
should just surrender the Ryder Cup.
Apparently so.
We pretty much did surrender.
Well, that's a good point. Here you go. You're up. You just go ahead and take that. Be done. Gentry, a Titans win, which I don't know, it hadn't been very often since you've been here. We've talked about that. So what did you make of the Titans? The Arizona Cardinals absolutely just giving one away to the Titans. And I guess most importantly, now that they've gotten a win, psychologically, what do you think that does for this football team?
I mean, maybe it's a turning point. It was a crazy win. They didn't really deserve it the way the game played out, but the Cardinals totally give it away. And I think that's how we're going to look back at this. It was an all-time collapse by the Cardinals. If the Titans are able to turn it into more, then good for them. But they're going to have to play a lot better than they did for most of that game. I mean, for 3 quarters, it looked like pretty much every game had to this point. And, to see him wake up there at the end, it's momentum can turn and weird things can happen. It, to me, is a little bit like the game in Houston last season. So I draw some parallels to what happened the next week after that, where they went to Washington and just played horribly for maybe their worst quarter of the whole season. So I'm interested to see now what happens. They've got a winnable game, I think, this week. So we'll see if they're able to build anything.
Let's stick with that for a second. I mean, that Washington game, if people forgot, 42-19. Came out absolutely as flat as humanly possible. Then we heard from Jarvis Brownlee that everyone was afraid to say it, but he would man up and tell us that at 44 degrees, it was cold. Guys struggle with it. And Simmons said they were hung over from success. And this followed. Obviously, they beat Miami. They lost to the Colts only by a field goal. They beat New England. They lost at the Chargers only by 10. This was maybe the low moment of the season. What did Callie say when you brought this up to him yesterday?
Well, he said that he was going to go back and look at his notes from last year and not duplicate, but I think he kind of shrugged off the comparison as, something that would be applicable to now. But that was so bad last year. That the way they started that game was I remember thinking at the time, that's about as bad a quarter as I think an NFL team's capable of playing. Just in terms of how that game was over instantly, it felt like.
That was the opposite of the fourth quarter that we just saw in Arizona.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think, look, anybody who saw the Raiders against the Colts this last weekend, the Raiders are beatable. I mean, this would have been a game that I think we would look at anyway for the Titans and say, look, if they're going to get one, this is as good a chance as any. And so I do think it's kind of it's a golden opportunity for the Titans to actually build some confidence and some momentum and some self-respect a little bit. Once they start expecting things to change and be a little better, maybe, things will be that way. So I think it is an opportunity, but they're going to have to take advantage of it.
What do you think about where Cam Ward is right now? We were talking about the accuracy issues earlier. His completion percentage is 51.8%. And then he comes out there in the fourth quarter and he just looks great. I mean, he's making all the throws. He's making big plays down the field. So you can see that, and that's awesome. What do you make overall of where he is and that next step for him that you feel like he's got to take?
It's amazing to me how quickly the narrative changes when you're able to actually win a game. Because for a lot of that game, he was awful. I think for a while that was setting up to be his worst game yet. He was at 5 of 16 in the first half.
Yep.
And you guys talked about the accuracy, and I feel like the way he's able to finish, it did look a little bit like a couple of games at Miami. When you went back and watched him last season, whatever it is in a quarterback that allows you to be clutch in those moments at the end of the game, Ward did show that in college. And I feel like I don't know what it is about getting in a rhythm. You're in a hurry up kind of system like that, but he played his best in those moments. And in terms of confidence for a young quarterback, it's certainly the most encouraging aspect of that game, the way he played down the stretch, because it does indicate that kind of moment was not too big for him, and that's a big deal for a young quarterback.
Here's something that concerns me. Titans 3 out of the next 4, Brian Callahan versus Pete Carroll, Brian Callahan versus Mike Vrabel, Brian Callahan versus Jim Harbaugh. What do you think that's going to amount to?
Yeah, you thought about that. The Vrabel one stands out a little bit. Pretty good win for Mike the other night, huh?
Look good.
Yeah, Vrabel doing Vrabel. Prime time, superior opponent, and a win.
Yeah, I don't know really with the Raiders what's going on with Pete Carroll. I mean, obviously that's a pretty respected coach that I think it's just not going well for them right now. So maybe the door's a little bit open there, but oh boy, that game against the Patriots, that's not setting up to be a real fun experience. We'll see. We'll see when it gets there, I guess.
So Gentry, on the Vanderbilt front, they waltz into Alabama and they punch them right in the mouth. They get the first touchdown of the game. And then as the game goes on, Alabama settles in, Diego Pavia with 2 crucial turnovers in the red zone, and they walk out of there with a 30-14 loss to Alabama. So as you watch that game, what do you take away from it if you're Vanderbilt, and what did that show you about where Vanderbilt kind of sits as you look at the rest of their schedule with some tough games coming up?
Well, you could go 2 ways with Vanderbilt, and it's kind of been that way with them maybe the last couple of years. You could either be disappointed from the standpoint they had a chance to win that game. I mean, it's 20-14. They're driving late. Pavia throws the interception. They were in that thing. If they get a lead late, who knows what happens? I mean, they were toe to toe with Alabama for most of that game. So you could be disappointed that you don't win it. On the other hand, guys, it's Vanderbilt going toe to toe with Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I think when you take a step back, and I've been in games in that stadium against Vanderbilt and teams like that before, where it's sleepy and there's just not a buzz about it, and it nobody really seems to get that into it. That was not the case here. This felt like a big game. This felt like Tennessee was in there, LSU, somebody like that. Alabama was up for this. Their fans were up for it. Their team was up for it. That to me is a big compliment for Vanderbilt. But if you are Vanderbilt, you spent the whole offseason telling us how you're a championship contender and how this and that. And it's like, well, if you want that smoke, you got it. And they were not able to make the plays and handle it, which I think is disappointing from the standpoint of, okay, this is what you wanted, and you had your opportunity and it didn't work out. But from a big picture standpoint, I mean, to see Vanderbilt in that kind of moment was pretty startling.
What, you can't predict anything about Vanderbilt's future now because it all relies on the transfer portal. I mean, how much does it suck if you're a Vandy fan and you want to know what comes after Pavia and you don't have any real inclination?
I mean, you're not wrong, Paul, but isn't that really every team at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it is every team, but now Vandy's good in this era, and so you don't get to any hint of the future. Like your next question is, what can Clark Lee do next? Right.
To me, the bigger question, and there is obviously that with Pavia, once this era is over, this is kind of a special moment they've captured here that I don't think is going to be sustainable just because he's a special case in a lot of ways with that team. But to me, it's more Jerry Kill. It doesn't get mentioned very often that Jerry Kill's influence on what has happened here, the former, Pavia's coach at Mexico State who came to with Tim Beck as well, and what they've done offensively to kind of build everything. I think I've said this since last season. I feel like Jerry Kill behind the scenes has had a lot more influence on what's been happening at Vanderbilt than he gets credit. He's been very much behind the scenes with all this. I don't think Pavia would be here without Jerry Kill, for one thing, and Tim Beck. And so I feel like, can you keep him? Because Jerry Kill's a guy who's kind of already retired, and they brought him back to do this job. And I think if you're able to kind of keep your staff continuity, I think that would allow you to keep this offense and kind of maintain some of what you're doing. I mean, Diego Pavia's value to Vanderbilt, I mean, he is a good player, but I think it's been more the mentality and the talent standpoint as a quarterback. I don't feel like he's irreplaceable. It's just the intangibles that he's brought to the team.
And also now it's an attractive spot to come be his successor in a way that it wasn't before he did this.
Well, yeah, and I mean, another thing too is Vanderbilt has really stepped it up in the NIL space the last couple of years. That's not just football; they've done it in men's basketball. They have the best women's basketball player in the country right now, I think. Baseball has always been strong, but I feel like Vanderbilt got serious here in the last few years about doing what it takes to compete and get some talent. And you see that their O-line's full of grad student types. They're a lot deeper, a lot better on both lines of scrimmage. They've got some talent on the perimeter. The defense has some guys who I think are going to play in the league, which really hasn't been the case. So if they're able to continue that, and people have asked a lot about, like, what do you think Clark Lee's going to do? Like, well, I think Clark Lee wants to stay at Vanderbilt, but I think he wants to stay at Vanderbilt with a chance to win. And that's what they've been able to do the last couple of years in these sports. They've given their teams a good chance to win with the support in NIL. And as long as Vanderbilt's able to continue doing that, I think they're probably still going to have good teams.
Gentry, last thing for you here. Tennessee's got Arkansas this weekend and Alabama coming up in a couple of weeks. There's still some challenging games left on the schedule. With what you've seen from them to this point, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, what do you think's in front of this Tennessee team? What do you think they have the potential to be as this year goes along?
I mean, it's a really good question, Robbie. After the Mississippi State game, I kind of wrote that, what do you make of this team? It's still hard to kind of figure out what that upside is because it's such a strange time in the SEC anyway with the parity of this. Because you're talking about a team who won an absolute coin flip of a game against Mississippi State, but lost an absolute coin flip of a game against Georgia. So you can equate those two teams in a way that you still don't really know what to make it Tennessee. And I think they're going to roll through Arkansas. I don't think that's going to be much of a challenge. Although, hey, you never rule out Bobby Petrino. That's an interesting curveball for this.
And neck brace
but
could be coming
do
in.
Tennessee's going to be up for Arkansas. But the next game in Tuscaloosa, Alabama impressed me a little more this last game than I thought they would. I think that's an improving team, especially most notably because Ty Simpson's playing a lot better. So that's going to be a tough game for Tennessee. That's going to tell us a lot about where that team is. And until then, you like what you see with Joey Aguilar. There's a lot of talent. The receivers are playing great. The defense maybe, isn't quite as good as it was a year ago. This looks a little more like the 22 team, which 22 team was pretty dang good. But if you can get the run game going a little more, get the defense going a little more, I think there's a lot of upside for this team. It's just hard to tell yet.
Gentry, great stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning, and we will talk to you soon, my friend.
Take care, man. Pump up, Chelsea.
There we go. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean, our guest on Robby and Rexrode. We got a rant from PK coming up next.
It's going to be a version, if you remember the good old days, of mashed carrots.
I remember. And boy, did I love that. We'll have that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
Our latest criminal has made it in the building.
Well, did you know the play, Paul? Yeah, Steve, stop doing those Mayo commercials. You might play some quarterback.
Daddy, I name now say you suck. Everyone sucks. Go, go, gaga.
Hey, Jordan Schultz, what are you stealing all my stories for?
Come on in, PK. Maybe Jordan and I can both beat the crap out of you.
They think you're some buffoon.
Punch me, too.
Champ Bailey available this week, or we'll figure out whatever we think is best this week, Paul.
It both entertains and disgusts me.
It's time for the PK Rant. Brought to you by Functional Medicine of Tennessee. Rise up to better health. Check them out at functionalmedicineoftennessee.net. Mr. Kuharsky, I turn things over to you, my friend.
I appreciate it. This is called mashed carrots. This is where I take the food that is hard for people to digest, I mash it up, and I feed it to you on a spoon to help you digest something that seems not palatable to people. And we play a little background music to help it go down more easily. Things are not retroactive, okay? So, like when there's a question last week during the Titans' fourth game or after the Titans' fourth game where they become 0-4 and they've completely stunk up the joint, and then they do it for 3 more quarters, so 19 quarters of football have been terrible, and then they play a good 20th quarter for sure and get a nice win for which they deserve credit. Questions about their resiliency and their relentlessness don't disappear. Were they resilient and relentless in the 20th quarter? Absolutely. Does that make them resilient and relentless for the 19 previous quarters? Absolutely not. This is an important concept for all of you to think, to consider. When something is horrible and then something happens that's not horrible, it does not wash away the previous history. And so if you come at me with stuff about relentless and resilient, which you all agreed with last week, by the way.
It's true.
And you say, what about now? Yeah. Now they just showed some relentlessness and some resilience, but they showed none through 19 quarters. This does not retroactively go back and make the Titans good against Denver or against the Rams or against the Colts or against Houston, where I might remind you they scored 0 points. I'm trying to hold your hand to show you how this works. And I knew when this game was over that somebody in the locker room would even have this feeling. And sure enough, I walked in and one of the guys was like, "Hey, Paul," as if like something I had done was somehow offensive to the sensibility. If you go and play like you've played, I said at Cam Ward, I tweeted during the game, the Titans have a Cam Ward problem. His accuracy is terrible. And then they say, what about his accuracy now? Do you understand that through 3 quarters, he was completing 38% of his passes? Now he turns things around and he has a wonderful 4th quarter, and you go, oh, showed you, Kuharsky. But let me again say, this is not retroactive. And an excellent 4th quarter by Cam Ward does not have the power to go back and sprinkle completions into the 1st quarter, into the 2nd quarter, or into the 3rd quarter. And while Cam Ward had an excellent 4th quarter, he still was terrible in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd quarter. I don't understand how people can't understand this, but this is my public service message. When something good happens from point B forward, it has no bearing on what happened from point A to point B. It only has a bearing on point B to point C. please pass this message along to your friends. We'll try to put it out as a public service message on the game's website.
Yeah.
I'll tweet it out if it's given to me by our fine producer, Ian. And maybe we'll send you a link to this soothing music as well. So just in summary, goodness is not retroactive and does not cure previous badness. Thank you.
This is also my favorite when it's the same thing, but when somebody, you tweet, man, they're playing horrible, and then they go and win the game. It's like, well, they're playing bad now, buddy. What do you think about it now? It's like, well, they were down 31-0 in the third quarter, but they came back. Good stuff. Yeah, it drives me nuts there. How'd your carrots taste, people? Good stuff there. Good stuff on that front.
Yummy
that took me back
carrots.
to the good old days.
Yummy carrots. You're going to help your vision.
Took me back to the good old days there. People really enjoy the music that went along with that, too.
Soothing.
A lot of people say, how do I get the mashed carrots music from my ringtone? It's from Brett.
It did sound like a little bit like the old school ringtones at times.
Kind of did. We have people apparently who think Jackson Dart better than Cam Ward on the text line, too. Can we let Jackson Dart play?
No.
Can we let anybody play a
have to
season?
make an immediate judgment.
I mean, Jackson Dart's played what? 2 games. Looked good in the first one, and they got beat by the New Orleans Saints in the second one. So can we just chill? Just let them play for a little while.
Titans coming on strong.
Yeah, they are.
The Giants winless?
No, they got one. They took
Dart
down the
won his first game.
So
Yeah,
the Jets hold the first pick in the
Jets
draft
right now, 0-5 with Aaron
and
Glenn.
the Jets are in the quarterback market.
They are.
So Titans fans, you want the Jets to win very badly somewhere along the way. I don't play this draft game. I'm just putting myself in your shoes.
too early to check Tankathon.
Oh,
no. And we do now have a weekly column on Fridays at paulkuharsky.com about who you should be thinking about from a college perspective. This is not my lane. It's Braden Gall's lane.
Yes.
But he convinced me, and I buy it.
Hey, Jets,
and it helps me.
Jets Browns coming up in a month, baby. That could be an important game if you're a Titans fan.
That's
Jets and the
one.
Browns.
Well, you got Titans, Browns, and you got Titans Saints.
Yeah.
I mean,
what more could you ask
this
for?
is where they've got us.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot more of the Titans front to get into with PK coming up next, including the play of Jeffrey Simmons. What has he made of that, and what could this all mean for the Titans when trade deadline time comes around? We'll get into all that. Mike Herndon from paulkuharsky.com coming up at 8:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robbie Stanley, Paul Kuharsky, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. I got some tickets to give away later this hour to the Preds opening night game coming up on Thursday against the Columbus Blue Jackets, so make sure you're tuned in for that. Mike Herndon will be with us later this hour at 8:30. And we will get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. So looking forward to that. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. PK, one guy we've not talked about yet is Jeffrey Simmons, who is playing as well as I've seen him play. I mean, obviously back in 2021, he was really good, really dominant that year. And I think Titans fans have been searching for him to get back to that level ever since then. He's been outstanding.
He really has.
The year so far.
And part of it is health,
Yeah.
certainly. He's had nagging stuff the last couple of years, not necessarily this early in the season, but ultimately. So you certainly hope he stays healthy. I had he talked at the podium in Arizona. And I was kind of offset to the side. And so really had an angle on him and his physique. And one of the best senses I got of just how slim he is.
Yeah.
Which is terrific. I really, and my guy, Drew Beatty did a film study of him last week, which was remarkable about the stuff he's done this season. I really would like to go and look at some of his best play from earlier in his career and compare it. And I think the most striking thing would be you're going to feel like you're looking at a different guy,
right,
based on the size,
body type. Yeah.
He's not defensive tackle size right now. He's an intentionally undersized defensive tackle, which is really something. Look, I give all the credit in the world to Jeffrey Simmons. He not only the body reshaping and determining that that's the way to go for him, but his leadership approach has changed, I think, pretty dramatically. His accountability scores way up. The thing is, though, he doesn't have much to account for because he's playing this well. Yeah. So you erase the accountability factor when you're terrorizing the league. But I suspect he's more willing to raise his hand, say my bad, if and when those moments come. He has that feel to him. He feels looser and less tense in that regard. I was happy for him. He is as stand up as anybody on the team. He understands part of his leadership thing is to talk after every game. He could easily ask for a game off. I can't remember. He maybe asked for a game off in London the last time they were overseas. I'm not even sure if that's right, but maybe. Doesn't ask for games off in terms of having to be a face of the team and answer the questions. 10 losses in a row. Been talking about how tiresome it is. He knows it's tiresome for us, has led off a lot of these conversations with, this is redundant. This is, tiresome. This is ridiculous.
Talking about the same stuff.
It was nice for him, for everybody to be able to smile and talk about some good things happening and everything. And I think this puts them at a really awkward spot because obviously he's their most valuable trade chip. He's going to want and deserve new guaranteed money after this season. It's not the last year of his contract, but his guaranteed money is up.
Yep.
He changed agents, changed body type. His performance is through the roof now. They have to decide, are we going to give him a new deal with significant guaranteed money after this season and continue to have him as a foundational piece, which there's a good argument for. Don't trade your best guy, build around him. You can also make a good argument that if we can get a second plus for this guy, defensive tackle is very important. And while he's very impactful, we have really got to address edge and corner and receiver, which are technically more impactful positions. And we can find a defensive tackle who's not going to be Jeffrey Simmons, but can do that job at a standard level while looking to get better play out of these peak positions where we just are not competitive enough. And I think you could argue both sides of that equation. And so I don't know what to do there. I don't think they're getting back in the race or anything here. And you get those picks plus a trade down from a top 3 spot, and you've got the kind of picks that Chad Brinker has talked about them wanting in order to get this thing going. So very difficult. And I don't factor this in. I don't. Fans do, but he could conceivably wind up somewhere where he's got a chance to compete. People would hate to see him in Baltimore. You know who could use him badly? Baltimore. You know who else could use him badly? Buffalo.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you're talking about, to your point, he's 28. So he's 28 years old, and he's playing the best football of his career. And on the one hand, you're looking at the Titans roster, and you're saying, I was thinking about this the other day. Who's the Titans' second best player?
Yeah, we've talked about this.
Yeah,
second best player on defense.
Yeah, like it's
on defense. It's impossible. Should be Amani Hooker.
Yeah,
he's not played particularly well. It's hard to find the second best.
Very hard.
Robert Woods has probably been the second best player,
Xavier
but I think
Woods,
Xavier Woods. Sorry, Robert Woods. Jeez. Xavier Woods probably, but he seems to have leveled off a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, second best player overall and second best player on defense. These are far too difficult questions to answer.
So I think that's the question that you've really got to consider. If you're
you trade him and you are barren.
You're bad. I mean, and Joe brought this up yesterday, and I think it's a fair point. Like, if you trade Simmons, even if you get back a good return, and I'm with you, I don't think it's going to be a first-round pick. But let's say it is a second,
multiple pick,
and another pick. Let's say it happens that way.
And that second pick may be having escalator potential.
Yeah. So let's say that's what they get, a second-round pick and a
fifth
that can escalate into a fourth. How do you weigh that if you're Mike Borgonzi with the idea of signing him to a new deal and having a guy that you feel really good about as a foundational player on your defense? And the other part of that, as Joe brought up, if you do that, let's say they move on from Jeffrey Simmons. I know everybody feels like Brian Callahan is getting fired and it's a foregone conclusion anyway. But then if they did that, doesn't that kind of tell you that that's what they're doing at that point? Because, I mean, think about how bad they are and then take Jeffrey Simmons away from that. What sort of a chance is the coaching staff going to have at that point?
I'd certainly like the new coach's opinion on the
For
personnel, sure. Right? But the peak value is going to be now, right? For a team that's trying to solidify its defense as the AFC pecking order establishes itself in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks. That's going to be the time to decide. And they've got other tradable pieces. If you're trading some of the other pieces, that to me makes it more like it. But I will say I've gone from definitely trade everything to I don't know if they should.
And that's it's independent of the win. That's just with the way that he's playing.
Completely independent of the win.
Yeah, just the way that he's
playing.
I mean, look, if you told me that this was what he's going to be for the next 3 years, it makes it a little bit more difficult to trade because generally speaking, I'm with you. Like, it's defensive tackle, and that's important. But I'd much rather have a dominant edge rusher, right? Like that we've seen that's more important in the NFL. But if you're telling me that this is the way he's going to play for the next 3 years, which is impossible to sit here and predict, that makes the decision, I think, a lot tougher.
Yeah, and I think, it's going to, maybe they paper it up to be more than 3 years, but it's going to be 3 years effectively and with the guarantees packed into the first 2 years.
Yeah.
So you're not getting him into his 30s really,
right?
Or you're getting right to 30. And if you're, people are scared of 30. I'm not scared of Jeffrey Simmons at 30.
No,
based on what he's doing physically. So I'm curious to see what Mike Herndon thinks of this in terms of a rebuild. Because the other thing is, look, you like the picks. You like the picks for sure. And this draft has been pretty good. But they took Femi Oladejo with a second-round pick.
Yeah.
And they look, first off, you have to hit on the picks, which is no guarantee for sure. And the other thing is you can't pick developmental guys.
Right.
You need immediate impact guys.
Exactly.
Now, they've got immediate impact, obviously, out of Ward. You've got to. got to get immediate impact out of your second. Their third is just emerging and playing special teams. This draft class has been pretty damn good considering the second is invisible. The third just started playing special teams.
Well, and I think it would be easier to trade Jeffrey Simmons if you, in tandem with what he was doing right now, saw T'Vondre Sweat playing at a really high level. And you're not seeing him at all.
Right. And here's the other problem. I think T'Vondre Sweat is kind of a coin flip at this point in time. Not this regime's guy. Rand Carthon, say what you will about him, and people know how I feel about him, but the Jarvis Brownlee, T'Vondre Sweat guys were working for the Titans because Rand Carthon and I've heard to a degree Anthony Robinson had a good way with these guys, right?
Yeah.
This is one of the things that you don't think about when you think, oh, this thing where, so-and-so is his guy and so-and-so is his guy. And you think it's more just about like, oh, I just don't like him. There's a real personality, work ethic thing. And so Carthon and his administration had a way with Brownlee where they I don't want to say buddied up, but they were father figure types who knew how to push the buttons on these guys, right? And Borgonzi, I don't think has those relationships with these guys. I don't know that he's interested in having those kind of relationships. That's not how he's running an organization, right? And is that unreasonable? No, you want to get the most out of those guys, but you're also not going to change your entire management style to make things work for T'Vondre Sweat. So T'Vondre Sweat either has to fall in line with the new bosses like anybody at any organization, right?
Yep.
Or what happens? You're
Moving
working
on.
somewhere else.
Exactly.
And if he's working somewhere else, then you're going to be down Simmons on a trade. Then you're going to be down Sweat, a second rounder. Now we're talking about all these second and third rounders aren't in the picture. And my God, they're so depleted.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. More coming up on the Titans front with PK next. We'll have Mike Herndon at 8:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. I got some tickets to give away to see the Nashville Predators and their opening night game against Columbus coming up on Thursday night. Be caller 5, 615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win a pair of tickets to the Preds opening night game coming up at Bridgestone on Thursday night. 615-737-1025. Mike Herndon will be with us here in just a few minutes. People asking about T'Vondre Sweat in terms of what we need to see from him this year to feel good about him heading into year 3. With
fitness.
Number one, get on the field.
Fitness. Show me that you are, not me, show us that you're committed, that you got a work ethic, that you're pushing. You needed to take your game from last year and expand it into more of a pass rusher beyond a run stopper this year. Let's hit the field. I think they put you on IR because of the toe, but also to give you some time to get things straight after the tonsillectomy and everything that training camp missed time set you back. They gave you a month to get caught up. Come back and be caught up. And if you're not caught up and you come back and you're not playing your full load of snaps and all of that, it's going to be cause for some disappointment and some concern.
Oh, get after the quarterback. I'm not asking you for 5 sacks because you're a defensive tackle that largely your job is to stuff the run. But they did say, the next step for him is to get after the quarterback. And when you take somebody 38th overall, there needs to be an element of that to their game, right? Like you need to be able to get after the quarterback a little bit. So I would say, that's the thing. I mean, we keep talking about the strength of the defense heading into the year, needing to be those two up the middle. Well, Jeffrey Simmons has lived up to that and more with what he's done to this point. But if you got to the point, and that's what makes the fact that Sweat has missed the time he's missed so problematic. And by the way, it's what you talked about when he was missing time in training camp. It's played out exactly that way of missing time in camp, ultimately leading to you never really catching up. That's not good if it plays out that way the rest of the year in his second year.
There's prove it time for a lot of guys, and he's top of the list. They need, when Fossil delivered this really good stuff last week, and we'll hear from him again tomorrow, but he talked a little bit about, we're not at full strength now, and we're waiting on Sweat and Latham and, whatever else. Those are the two biggies.
Yeah.
There's truth to that, but it's also a little naive, and I'm not calling Fossil naive. He knows this, but this idea that we'll be our full selves. Teams are very rarely their full selves, and by the time you have both Latham and Sweat back, Latham will be back this week.
Yep.
I'm virtually certain. I think Sweat has one more week on IR. And Sweat will certainly be back the week after he's done with IR. And so then Spears will be back. Latham will be back. Sweat will be back. Hopefully you have a little window there where everybody's back, but somebody else is going to fall out at some point, right? Sure as hell hope it's not an offensive lineman. You hope there's the football gods naturally select somebody who's not as important as Latham, as Sweat should be. Spears doesn't have a giant role, but they certainly missed him, and it has an impact on Pollard. But it'd be nice to see a healthy stretch for this team because God knows we know the thinness.
Oh, yeah, we do. Well, we'd like to correct our friend Ian Rappaport on the program today, who at one point yesterday was talking about Traylon Burks and tweeted out that Traylon Burks, who, as we know, was put on IR to begin the season with the injury that he was dealing with. Apparently,
he was waived.
Yeah.
And then it cleared waivers, and he reverts to IR.
Yeah, and he says he's been cleared for all football activities. Burks was released from IR and can sign with anyone, which, as you pointed out, that is not the case as of yet.
He is on Titans IR. And when he goes off of Titans IR, and their plan is, my understanding is they will release him. And look, people ask now, a couple people anyway are asking, well, why release him? They're a mess at wide receiver. When they released him, that was the indication that they were done with him, right?
Correct.
They didn't reach an injury settlement, which is the equivalent of paying him for the time it's going to take him to be healthy. Now he's healthy. So they will release him again. And he will have to clear waivers, which Ian gets wrong there as well. So Ian is cutting and pasting what an agent has given him. And he's wrong on two fronts. He's not available, and he's going to have to clear waivers. Will Ian correct himself? No, Ian will not correct himself. Ian will pretend not to have seen any of this.
He does tend to operate that way. There's no doubt
They
about
all
that.
do. They all do. None of the big national guys ever correct. I mean, Albert Breer is pretty clean, but if Albert Breer makes a mistake like that, he will amend it at least.
A lot of people are talking about Jeffrey Simmons potentially going to the Ravens to reunite with Derrick Henry, and the Titans get a first and a third. Again, I don't know that they're getting a first round pick for Jeffrey Simmons. And also, if the Ravens are going to make a move, they probably need to make it quickly because they're 1-4. I mean, they're in danger of falling out of this thing pretty quickly if they don't get things turned around. And look, I know Lamar's hurt with the hamstring injury. He's going to be coming back at some point here. And when he's back, I feel fine about their offense, even though I will say, other than the first game, Derrick Henry really hasn't done anything to this point in the year. So I'm concerned about that. But their defense is so bad, and I know they're banged up on defense. To me, if Baltimore's going to make a move, it probably needs to happen now. They're 1-4.
This could be the worst Ravens defense we've ever seen. Now, I don't have a complete handle on how many guys are missing and how much health is going to cure them. I do know, just listening to some national stuff talking about Buffalo, that it sounds like they're looking for an impact guy that could help make everybody better. Kind of one of those guys that can reduce the burden on everybody else and kind of restore the depth chart. And Jeffrey Simmons would exactly be that guy. I don't have Buffalo's depth chart in front of me either.
Imagine him and Ed Oliver together. That'd be something.
Jeez, yeah. And look, I don't know how long Baltimore can pretend to be in it. I know that division isn't terrific, but if you're making a go for it move, I would do it if I was Baltimore. I would do it if I was Buffalo ahead of Baltimore.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it doesn't take much to make Buffalo the clear favorite in the AFC, where, I mean, hell, the Colts are up there.
Yeah.
Do I think Buffalo's scared of the Colts in the long run?
No.
Especially if they get home outdoor playoff game, I would be leaning Bills. And you add Jeffrey Simmons to the Bills, I would really be leaning Bills, because Jeffrey Simmons is going to help neutralize Jonathan Taylor, who is the key to the Colts going.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Mike Herndon from PaulKuharsky.com will join us coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Paul Kuharsky with me here on the program. We are efforting Mike Herndon. Hope to be joined by him in just a few minutes. Take your thoughts on the Titans in the meantime. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. A lot of reaction to the Jeffrey Simmons thing. Sean says, if you're not getting the first for Jeffrey Simmons, you don't trade him. T from Clarksville. Is that on the table for the Titans? If Jeff Simmons is not basically the only bright spot on defense, why would we trade him? That would seem devastating. And others are saying, yep, if you get a second plus some other picks, get Jeffrey Simmons out of here and get some edge rushers. A lot of division between Titans fans on this particular topic, which I think speaks to the tough decision that will be for Mike Borgonzi and company when the trade deadline comes around.
I think it's about the value of the position, how they value the position, how they value the production. Obviously, these are all obvious things, and what they think they can get, the value of what they can get back. I mean, Chad Brinker said, 30 picks over 3 years with 10 in the top 3? Was that the formula? I mean, they're not close to that. I think between a potential top 3 pick trade back, given teams wanting quarterbacks, and a Jeff Simmons trade, they could definitely be in that range. Now, I don't know how strong a motivator that is for them, but they could definitely be in that range. Maybe they get close to that range just with the trade out of their top pick in the draft. But maybe there's a non-quarterback that they love if they end up drafting 3 or 4 and they get the best player in the draft, the best non-quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, could be. I believe we have Mike Herndon on the line now. So let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and bring in our buddy Mike Herndon to the program. Mike, good morning, buddy. How we doing?
I'm doing well. How are y'all?
Doing awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So let's get your thoughts on this conversation. Jeffrey Simmons playing, obviously, high-level football for the Titans right now. The trade deadline's coming up here in a few weeks. I don't know exactly what they'd be able to get from Simmons, but, maybe it's a first-round pick. Probably not. Maybe it's a second-round pick with some others included there. But if you're Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, the decision-makers for the Titans, how are you viewing things with Jeffrey Simmons right now? Are you looking to trade him? Are you looking to keep him around and build with him moving forward?
I'm a little bit torn on the situation because I think there's an argument to be made, certainly, that Simmons is 28 years old. He's got, I think, 2 years left on his contract beyond the end of this season, which then puts him at basically through his age 30 season. So he's going to want an extension, I'm sure, especially if the season continues to go the way that it is right now for him, because I think his guaranteed money is just about out on the current deal. So they're going to have a decision to make one way or another, whether they're going to extend him and at this point he'd probably be able to demand $30 million a year, and if he keeps playing like this, he's worth that. So the question is how much longer can he play like this? And I know 28 is not old by any means, but you start to get to 30, and for a guy that's had his more than his fair share of bumps and bruises over the years that he's played through, to his credit. But you kind of wonder how his body holds up post 30 and stuff like that. So I think there's an argument to be made that if you could get a big time haul, and I think I would draw the line at a first round pick, that it has to include a first if you want him at this point, because he's just playing too well to otherwise, give him up for a pick that could be in the 50s or 60s. When draft time comes around, you're just not going to get a premium talent, most likely in that range, and you're giving up a premium talent. So it would have to be a big haul for me to want to move him.
He's got 6.5 guaranteed next year with a 20 million base. He's got a 23 million base in 27 with 0 guaranteed. So, I mean, they could shift a lot around in quote unquote extending him, maybe only adding a year, but guaranteeing a lot of that and shifting it around in a way that'll be more salary cap friendly. and satisfying him. He hired a new agent, changed his attitude a lot, been silent on these things and letting his play do the talking. I certainly think he's either gone or he's getting a new contract, one way or the other. Cedric Gray turning heads the last 2 weeks. What have you noticed about his play? And is Cody Barton helping him, or is Cody Barton largely quiet?
I think Cody Barton is probably helping Cedric Gray. I think you're seeing, to me, what you're seeing from Cedric Gray right now is a guy it's starting to click. He's playing fast, and this is a guy that was hugely productive at North Carolina. And I was a pretty big fan of his coming out of the draft. Thought he was good value where the Titans picked him. He had 100 plus tackles in I think 3 straight seasons at North Carolina, and was only linebacker in his class to achieve that. So he's a guy who has a big history of productivity, and now you're starting to see him certainly trigger faster on all this stuff, which I do think probably does owe a little bit to playing against a guy or playing next to a guy in Cody Barton, who is kind of in full command of that defense, it seems. And I think he's able to play freer because Barton is, assignment sound and helping him be prepared for what's coming. So I think you're seeing Barton help him, but I think you're seeing a guy in Gray who is a lot more physical, honestly, than I kind of expected him to be. But he is playing at a very high level right now to me, and looks like a guy who could be an answer for you in the middle of that defense for the next, years. I think he's been a pleasant surprise this season compared to what expectations were coming in.
In your view, who is the second best player on this defense, and who is the second best player on this team?
Oh my gosh, that is very difficult.
Everybody's taking a turn at this one, Mike.
Yeah, so to me, if you're looking at pure talent, I think L'Jarius Sneed is still your second best player on the defense. He's got to play like it, and he hasn't really since he's been here. But I still think it's in there, and you see it every now and then. I think he's had a couple good games this season where you've seen the flashes. So I still think it would be Sneed for me as the second best player on the defense. And then what was the
well?
question
Then who's the best player on offense?
The best player on offense right now, to me, I think it's Peter Skoronski. Yeah. And I think he's been consistent. He had a rough game, not this past game, but the game before against Houston. That was his worst game of the season by far to this point. But he's otherwise been pretty lights out as a pass protector, and has clearly taken steps forward to being the guy that they hoped he would be when they took him. Probably too high for a guard still, and for the impact that you get out of him, but he's turned into a very good player and a guy that will be worth an extension look at the end of this season.
Let's keep making it hard. Who's the second best player on offense?
That is hard. I think as ironic as it is, given all the offensive line struggles, I think you could make an argument for Kevin Zeitler, who I also think has been very good at guard, but it's probably not a great sign when your two best players on offense are guards.
Definitely not a good sign.
So what do you make of Ward to this point, Mike? Because obviously the fourth quarter was awesome, and we've talked a lot about that today on the show. He's got a completion percentage at 51.8%. The accuracy's kind of been all over the map. He certainly has not been helped by his receivers who have dropped the ball a lot. But when you're watching Ward out there right now, what do you see?
Yeah, it's a lot of inconsistency, and that's not, shocking for a guy playing his fifth NFL game, as a rookie. I think some of his fundamentals, so his footwork and arm angles and things like that, they're just extremely inconsistent. And part of that, I think, is part of the appeal for Ward, right? That he is kind of a loose player. And he's a playmaker, and he's able to get away with some of that stuff at times. But I think he's leaned on it maybe too much to where he needs to get more comfortable playing within the offense. And I think he will as the season progresses. He gets more used to the targets around him, how the offense works, what he likes in the offense, seeing NFL defenses reacting to them. I think that he'll start to settle down a little bit. But right now, I think he's fundamentally kind of all over the place, which I think is causing some of these kind of spray throws that are just not accurate balls. And I mean, even some of the drops, yes, they're drops. Yes, professional receivers should catch the ball, but he's not helping them with his ball placement. Guys having to reach behind them, having to turn around in awkward spots. It's been pretty bad. Although you also see moments when it looks really good. The dime to Helm, the dime to Ridley in that big comeback in the fourth quarter. So I think it's not that he's necessarily a naturally inaccurate passer. I just think he's kind of sped up. I think his mind is not settled right now, and you see it in where his fundamentals lapse. That's when the accuracy issues come in, and I also think the drops are killing him. I mean, his drop rate is enormous, which makes his completion percentage look worse than what his accuracy probably should justify.
Denard Wilson, the defensive coordinator, talked about simplifying. The reason they complicate in the first place is to cover for lack of talent. You simplify and you tend to expose your lack of talent more. What did you see in terms of simplification in this game, and how did it work? Obviously, the defense is very good after middle of the second quarter, really.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of I kind of think that's kind of one of the central challenges as a coach is how do you make yourself complex for your opponent but simple for your players? And I think that's something that Kyle Shanahan has talked a lot about in the past, and he kind of does it with, they'll run a lot of the same concepts. They just run it out of different personnel groupings or run it out of different looks with formation and things like that. And that's maybe a little bit tougher to do on defense because so much of what you have to do is react to what the offense is showing you. But I think that is kind of the central challenge as a coach is how do I make myself difficult to play against, but easy for my players to execute. And I think you definitely are seeing some progress. I think they need to, maybe get a little less, cute with some of the back end stuff. Just kind of let guys play. Cause I don't think they're not a completely untalented group when they're healthy. Like I said, Snead is physically capable of being a very good NFL corner. I think they just need to let him line up and play more. And there's other guys in this group. I think they should play Jihad Ward a lot more on the edge. He's the one guy who has given you something as a pass rusher in that edge group. They need to let him play more. And I think you're starting to see them turn up his snaps a little bit, and they are seeing some good results from that.
Mike Herndon writes weekly for paulkuharsky.com. We haven't talked yet this week, so let's have our conversation on the air. What's coming?
So I am going to be taking a look at kind of the differences with Ward in that fourth quarter breakout and what was different between him early in the game versus late in the game. And kind of some of the things that triggered that and whether that's going to be sustainable moving forward, if they found something or if it's, kind of just a hot spurt there.
So basically a week full of Ward. I'm writing about Ward today. There's film study about Ward tomorrow.
That's what the people want.
Mike will be tomorrow or Thursday. Ward.
That's what people want.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it. Mike, appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. My condolences to your Longhorns. Sorry about that.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Brutal.
We will talk to you soon, my friend.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Mike Herndon with us here on the program. You can check out his work at paulkuharsky.com. One more segment with PK coming up next. Take your reaction to what Mike had to say. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Hang with Titans fans, including the crew from 102.5 The Game at the Overhang Bar in Circa. Drink specials are included, plus giveaways including 2 tickets to the Titans-Raiders game. Go to circalasvegas.com for more information. Robbie Stanley, Paul Kuharsky, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Appreciate Mike Herndon from paulkuharsky.com for being with us in the last segment there. Interested to see his piece on Ward this week. And I think what he brings up there is really kind of the fundamental question. Was the fourth quarter for Cam Ward, was that a light bulb moment for him, for this team, this offense? Or was that just kind of a flash in the pan and they're going to go back to being an offense that struggles to get into the teens next week against the lowly Las Vegas Raiders?
And we can't know until kickoff on Sunday afternoon and beyond. Look, I don't expect them to be a 4-quarter football team all of a sudden, but more than a 1-quarter football team, right? There's going to be ebb and flow, and they know that. But they got to do more than they did against Arizona. And look, the Raiders are capable of making some big mistakes. I don't know that you're going to get – look, the mistake that triggered the whole thing where a guy drops a ball, short of the end zone, clearly this thing isn't erasing itself from football because it's been going on since who started it? Little receiver. I'm going to forget. But it hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's an epidemic. It comes up every 6 weeks between college and the pros.
It's amazing.
But I don't think the Raiders are going to do that for the Titans.
No,
I don't think you get that.
Deshaun Jackson.
Deshaun
Jackson. Jeez. Thank you.
Whoever knew how contagious something that unhealthy for the game could be. They're not getting a gift like that. Maybe they get a bad turnover or two, but maybe they commit a bad turnover or two. Let's see them go out and play in a regular football game against another bad team. How do you do in a regular football game against another bad team on the road? Right. End of three game road trip too, probably starting to get a little tired, anxious to be home. Not that the home game's any treat.
That one's going to be an interesting one coming up. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Trey to the program. Trey, good morning. The biggest Cam Ward hater in town.
Morning. How y'all doing?
Good.
Hey, Paul, you got the right guy for the job. Mike knows exactly what he's talking about. I've been saying the same thing since July. I have a problem with Cam's fundamentals, and I would like to see him play a complete system game. No hero ball. We got on Will Levis about the hero ball. I'm not ready to give him his flowers yet. And like Paul said, I want to see him go down and beat a bad team like the Raiders in a full, complete system game. Hey, y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Trey. Appreciate it.
It's not just him. He needs help. But yeah, he's the leader. It's only 6 games in. He can do a lot better than he's been doing and not play a full 4-quarter system game.
Yeah.
There are going to be moments for a rookie quarterback you would expect. But let's see more.
Yeah, for sure. And then, for the whole offense, yes, I'm with everybody who says the ball has to be more accurate and you got to help your receivers out. But it's also time for the receivers to start helping him out. It's time for when the ball hits you in the hands, bring it down and catch it. And, whether that's Helm getting more targets, as we talked about earlier in the show, really the big thing that I'm wondering coming out of the game, you mentioned Ridley last year. It took him 7 weeks. He had the Detroit game where he had 10 catches for 130 yards or whatever it was. Is this the launching point for Ridley for the rest of the year? Because if it is, that's a huge deal for this Titans offense.
Nobody's going to win a football game with their quarterback completing 38%, which is where Cam was through 3 quarters, right? Did other people contribute to it? Yes. Was it predominantly Cam in this game? It was predominantly Cam. Isle Manor dropped one. Helm dropped one. Isle Manor had another one that was, I think, probably catchable. Killed 2 third downs.
Yep.
But Cam was all over the place. 2 deep shots. I think they were both to DK. one for sure that he was open. Not close.
Yeah.
Not close. And they talk about, hey, we have the shots in there. We don't necessarily get to them, or they don't present themselves. These two presented themselves.
Yep.
Not close.
Yep.
You've got to be able to go for that stuff and have some degree of success. They call them low percentage. They're not 0%.
Right.
They were 0% for the Titans in these games.
PK, you'll be back with us tomorrow in the second half of the show, and then again on Thursday. Thanks for being
Looking
with us
forward
today.
to it. Don't block the box. Be sure to lock your locks.
Next Man Up with Jake Lyman coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.